Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Dill, a game of the year candidate here. Michigan pulling it off against USC. Now, you obviously know the boys are Michigan fans. That being said, a ton of respect to USC. Like, Miller Moss is an absolute warrior. USC is going to win a lot of football games with Miller Moss and Dill, an improved good defense. Like, you look at USC's numbers specifically in the second half on the defensive side of the football, largely outside of three plays. Like, USC's defense played well. Michigan obviously made the plays in the moments that mattered. Fired up to get into this one now. Before we do, and as always, most importantly to the Michigan fans, let it fly in the comments section. The boys are still kind of trying to collect their breath as well. Y'all continue to rock with the boys. We appreciate y'all. Would love to hear from you guys in the comments section. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, T-Box, where you want to go.
I mean, that defense, it's still it. And I think people, again, like after that Texas game, I think wanted to take their shots. And obviously, the offense certainly has to get better. You can't, what did they have, 9 yards into like the last drive of that game? Like that is, they got to find some counterpunch. But that defense is unbelievably good still. Those edge rushers, they couldn't block Stewart. I mean, he was every time he wanted to get in the backfield, he was doing it. Derek Moore was really, really good. Very, very impressed with that defensive line still. And then obviously you got your guys in the secondary making plays, obviously led by Will Johnson. But Jair Hill had a heck of a game, in my opinion, too. I thought he made some big ones.
You know, outside of that one blown coverage for a touchdown, like Michigan in the secondary, Miller Moss was making some high-level throws to make it happen for USC. Like, I think Michigan in the secondary on aggregate was very good. And again, this is a USC offense that I expect to be, a top 10 offense in the country when it's all said and done.
It was nice to see them not giving up a ton, like man-to-man, just getting beat. I mean, because those you saw what they were doing to LSU. They were beating those corners like a drum pretty much anytime they wanted. And again, aside from you kind of said it, that blown coverage, and then just some really, really good plays. Miller Moss finding short holes in the zone. Like, that's just part of football at the end of the day. I thought Michigan's secondary really looked the part. Zeke Berry, I should shout him out.
Zeke Berry is awesome. Like, we were very concerned about how to replace Mikey Sandstrom, and you can't fully replace what Mikey did for us last year. Zeke Berry's coming pretty damn close in terms of what he brings to this Michigan defense. Still, massive storyline for me in this football game is when Wink Martindale realized they didn't really need to blitz. Like, Miller Moss is very good when he's blitzed, at least historically. The small sample size we have of Miller Moss, Wink Martindale obviously likes to blitz. The way we were beating up these offensive tackles. Now, I thought the inside of the offensive line for USC actually did a pretty darn good job against Kenny Grant and Mason Graham. Josiah Stewart, Derek Moore, even TJ Guy. Another kind of storyline here, the depth of Michigan's defense I thought showed up. Like, that was a massive concern coming out of the Texas game. You're seeing guys like TJ Guy, Rayshon Benny on the inside, really emerge as dudes, and it was getting ugly. Like, this Michigan defense played much better than 24 points allowed. They obviously scored a defensive touchdown, but Michigan couldn't stay on the field in the second half, and this Michigan defense continued to show up. The depth of this Michigan defense has me feeling much better about where Michigan can go in 2024 because, again,
the only position I think you probably have a few questions about is the linebacker play. I still think there's some room for that to be better. I thought giving up some of those gashes and just not filling holes as quick as you'd probably like. So Barham, Hausman, you certainly like to see those two play better football. Jimmy Rolder, honestly, I thought played pretty decent.
I think he might have been our best linebacker today. And Jimmy Rolder's a guy that has shown up and obviously didn't play a ton as a redshirt. I think they redshirted him last year. So his redshirt sophomore year, didn't play a ton in 2023. He absolutely showed up. Going to the offensive side of the football, Dill.
That first half, if Michigan's offense looks like that in the first half, I was like, okay, that they were doing some things to get the ball to the perimeter, whether it was with Orji, whether it was with end arounds, some screens, obviously. And then they were kind of working the middle of the field and hitting their big plays when they got their shots. The issue is they need to find some counterpunch or some way to, when they kind of get into the thick of it, if you will, like they did in the second half, they got to find something that they can get themselves out. I don't know if that's a trick play. I don't know if that's doing like something a little different, maybe just throwing the ball once in a while at least. I don't have the answers, but they got to come up with something.
I agree with you, and it felt like to me the creativity for this Michigan offense kind of went out the window in the second half.
It set in a little bit. Like I feel like that was the disappointing part is like, man, just stick with what was working. And obviously, I mean, they weren't getting first down, so it's hard to kind of get rolling a little bit. But I'm kind of with you. It felt like something changed a little bit. just went to strictly.
We were sitting there so frustrated with the Michigan offense, specifically like the lack of creativity in the play calling, and then we look up and like we've ran 8 plays in the second half. So it was hard for Michigan to get to some creativity when you just couldn't stay on the football field.
But when teams are keying in on the run, like obviously USC was doing in the second half, they got to find something that they can get to that'll get them some yards, or at least kind of keep.
100%. And I expect that to get better as Alex Orji continues to be quarterback one. Like I think they were building the offense around Alex Orji. Then they flipped to Davis Warren. Now they're getting back to the install of, all right, what does this offense want to look like with Alex Orji at quarterback? Dale, big story of the game. I kind of pissed at myself that it took 5 minutes and 30 seconds to get into this. My guy, Kalel Mullings.
Monster.
Dale, I took a lot of heat over the summer for kind of saying Kalel Mullings should be the lead back of this Michigan offense. And look, I'm not trying to say that Donovan Edwards should not be featured. But if you're looking for a guy that is getting the bulk of the carries specifically between the tackle, it doesn't get better than Kalel Mullings. I mean, the efficiency, forget the explosive plays. He hit 2 of them. But the efficiency in which he runs with, like it's 2nd and 6, and then it's 3rd and 2, and then we're moving the chains. Donovan Edwards, again, gives you that explosiveness, but doesn't always give you that efficiency. We're looking at 2nd and 9s. We're looking at 3rd and 7s, and that kills Michigan in the season. I think we all have to understand that you need the running back that can keep you on schedule. Kalel Mullings is that guy. And then you saw a little bit of explosiveness as well. His ability to stay on his feet at the 2nd level, next to none. Kalel Mullings, obviously, I think, the MVP of this football game.
And if that doesn't kind of drive home the point that he needs to be probably getting at least 70% of the carries, and obviously, again, you said it, Donovan Edwards still has his role. He hits that big play. He still certainly gives you an element of that in the offense, but it is starting to feel even more night and day than we maybe even thought it was. And obviously, you kind of thought it was going to be that way anyway, but I think a lot of us were like, well, it probably should be 50-50. I think it's getting pretty clear. It has to be 70-80% Kalel Mullings, because at the end of the day, they need to be able to chew up yards.
He's a guy that gets better as the game goes. Like he's one of those guys you don't want to have to tackle 20 to 25 times a game. Like if you're Michigan and you're looking at the recipe to winning football games, it is making them tackle guys like Kalel Mullings and Alex Orji 30 times a football game. Michigan got to that in the first half, and there was kind of a tale of 2 ends. Still, I do want to touch on USC really quick, though. Look, you got to figure out the offensive tackle position. Right, Elijah Page, a guy that we were really excited about as a redshirt freshman, obviously struggled, and I'm not really willing to – I thought Tobias Raymond came in at the right tackle spot and actually played pretty damn good football. Mason Murphy obviously sliding to left. I thought Lincoln Riley did what he could. Like at a certain point, I think he realized that he just couldn't really drop back and throw the football with how dominant the edge rushers – they were kind of whipping USC's tackles apart. And so Lincoln Riley went to a little bit more of the quick game. I think they had success, running the football too, because I think Michigan was so keyed in on getting after the passer that you did see some run lanes emerge. Dale, Woody Marks is an absolute dude, obviously making the play against Kenneth Grant.
He already threaded us. I was like, damn, that's crazy. That's happening.
And he ran the ball extremely hard as well. And then credit to Miller Moss, man. Like 3 touchdowns to 1 interception, 283 yards. Against what I think is one of the best defenses in the country, but more importantly, I mean, how many times was he on the ground tonight?
His ability to stand in and make plays when he's under pressure is really, really good. I think he's a very, very, very quick decision maker, and he's accurate under pressure, and that'll get him far, because obviously I don't think they'll see defensive ends, frankly, like Michigan. Maybe Ohio State will throw something close to them at that, but frankly, I'm not sure they rush the passer like Michigan's edge rushes. So that's probably as good as they'll see in the Big Ten, frankly. And again, you kind of said it, his ability to be really, really quick processing the game, getting the ball out of his hands. I was really, really impressed. And obviously, as a Michigan fan, I was getting kind of rattled. Like, man, I was like, he's taking our defensive line out of it a little bit.
Because I'm looking at the line of scrimmage and we're whooping him. And he's just like stepping up. His pocket management is elite. With the amount of pressure that we got on Miller Moss, like, did he take 1 sack, I think, backed up? Like, that's the only one I can remember. Maybe it was 2 or 3, but the amount of sacks that he did not take, keeping USC on schedule, was also massive. I know Zach Branch had a drop or 2, and that continues to be something he's working on. We all know he's an electric factory. I think he's getting better at wide receiver.
You see the polish as a wideout coming along a little bit. And I was really impressed with, his ability to find holes in the zone, make catches. Obviously, he can make plays with the ball in his hands, but I think, you didn't necessarily see that part of his game necessarily a ton today, but his ability and kind of gradual understanding, I'd say, how to play that wide receiver position will be, frankly, I think, very big for them, especially if Mekhi Leonard's out for any time.
And maybe I'm wrong on this. On the pick six, he was taking a lot of heat from the commentators in terms of fading. I get that you can't fade like that and you got to attack the football, but I think he was also trying to make sure he had the yards to gain as well. At the end of the day, that was on Miller Moss. Like, Miller Moss played a great game outside of that interception where I think Michigan kind of, for the lack of terms, like baited them. Like, you heard the commentators, oh, they're giving easy access to the flats.
That's
They were
just
showing that.
Wink being really, really good at what they do.
Yeah.
And obviously, Will Johnson leading the way, making like that huge play, and he's made a ton of those. Obviously, did against Ohio State, but yeah, that I don't put that a ton on Zachariah Branch. And frankly, I mean, that stuff happens in football. That's a really, really, really good corner you're dealing with.
That's the best cornerback in the country. And that's probably the last storyline I'd add is like your best players made plays. Like Mason Graham made some plays. Will Johnson made some plays. Like when the moment mattered most, Michigan came and make some plays. And to kind of close it out, if you're at like Michigan now, we're like the biggest fans of USC. Like we want USC to start running the table, have a lot of success. I think you're looking at two college football playoff caliber teams coming out of this game, obviously assuming Michigan kind of cleans up some of the offense and finds a little bit more rhythm. They'll what game? We'll dive plenty into this game, probably Sunday morning as well. We'll log off here. Again, appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.